And wrapping up our top 10 dysfunctions of a spreadsheet, here's the top 10 list in review. Versioning confusion happens to everyone. Who's got the source of truth? Who's got the ball? Oh, I thought I did. You edited it as well. Tabs sprawl. I'm sure we've all seen a spreadsheet that has sort of death by tabs. And then, oh, by the way, there's also hidden tabs down at the very bottom. And that can be really hard to consolidate and compile data afterwards if the data types are very similar between those tabs. Classic example is you've got a tab for January, you've got a tab for February, and a tab for March. And then you realize, oh, I want to be able to look through all of that data. Number 3, broken formulas. Hard to avoid these, particularly if after the fact you're going to add some new rows in there, add some new columns, and the spreadsheet just starts to evolve, or other people start to evolve it and they don't know your formulas. That can be a challenge. It seems like the tools are getting better and better at warning us about this and trying to help us find that. No shortage to just be sure, particularly for a pro forma leading into a deck that's going out to a board, to trace back through, or better yet, have an auditor friend trace back through before you ship those numbers. Number 4, color formatting. It just ain't data, right? So we want to use conditional formatting as opposed to just kind of cell formatting, because cell formatting, I'm going to put that one as yellow and yellow and that one's red, and then your teammate takes over and they do that 400 times. Now it's not data, and so folks like us, we can't really work with it. We got to go back through and put in a new column and say, great, now that you put all your yellows and your reds, call the yellows a 1 and your reds a 2. Funky data types. It happens to everyone. It still baffles me sometimes how I think I'm going along in a spreadsheet and I put in the next row and I put in a date and it doesn't recognize it as a date. It thinks it's just text. And so I get, Jan 1, 2015, and then the next one is just like 1/2, 1/5. Like it just somehow, somewhere, have to keep reformatting those columns and stay after it. So defining it well at the beginning, I believe, is probably a good trick within a spreadsheet. Number 6, data entry with no forms. Spreadsheets are basically, they're just not forms. Now, Google Forms and these other things that you can build, those are great. So we'll talk about pragmatic steps, practical steps you can keep doing to improve the spreadsheets that you have. But data entry without a form is sort of a known technical debt, as your CTO might say. Cell comments. Okay, sometimes maybe there's a good reason for a nice comment inside of a spreadsheet. I got one today, even from a teammate who is reviewing a contract. Super easy. Check that off. Yes, great point. Thank you for raising that. I agree. Let me make that edit. But cell comments, we've seen sometimes those take on data and take on information that really could and should be exposed into what you see is what you get right there, straightforward inside of the spreadsheet itself. Number 8, too many rows. That's often when our phone rings is, hey, we had a spreadsheet, it was working great. We hooked it up to an API and it was feeding in all this data so we could read these logs, and it broke. It ran out of rows. So what do we do? So just be aware of that. Plan from the very beginning and think about what that might be like if you start to take on steam and it takes on now 10,000 rows, or maybe it starts to get really wide. There are limits in play with most spreadsheet applications. No pickers, similar to no form, but pickers are just such a unique way of describing that you actually have a relational data model behind your solution. Unique and uniquely simple way of saying that. A picker is just evidence of a larger evolution that you're actually truly building a solution instead of just kind of a stopgap. So being able to pick from your vendor list, or being able to pick from your product list, or pick a sales rep, that's kind of the evidence that you're building something to scale. Lastly, security blunders. I know that there's probably a lot of information that deep experts could unpack about spreadsheet specific vulnerabilities. This, for us, this came to the top 10 list, not for fear that you might have someone trying to truly penetrate like a lockdown Excel cell document. It's more that they just have a way of getting circulated around the office via emails and some insecure methods. Better certainly if it's inside of SharePoint, or better if those Google Sheets are organized into very controlled and very clearly labeled Google Drives. that handle the security. However, they just seem to have a tendency to spread out some information that maybe others didn't really intend to share. So it's more the inadvertent blunders than it is the inherent risk of a spreadsheet that brings it onto our top 10 list. A couple of takeaways. Think about your good, better, best. And we tried to do that in this series to just be super practical. Hey, if you're currently working in spreadsheets, here's a way to make it a little bit better. And then chart the course, build your overall game plan to go big, make big plans. As Daniel Burnham said, I believe in planning the city of Chicago, make big plans. Assume that it's going to take on life. Assume that you're probably onto something that others are going to want to collaborate with. It may still be there in 2 or 5 years, and it may be building up with data. And so chart the course not only for what you're going to build now or build in the coming few months into this prototype that you're building inside of a spreadsheet, but then also how that's going to evolve over the years. And lastly, I just want to be sure to affirm that we love trailblazers, trailblaze on. Nothing in this series is meant to discourage you. These are all just kind of watch outs and things that can be small gotchas, but they all have a fix. And so keep prototyping, keep piloting, keep trailblazing, and then keep learning as well. That's what we've got for you. Thanks so much. Talk soon.